Thank you for your time and joining us on a Friday for this webinar, Back to School Support and Resources for Wonders 2020. My name is Sarah Shuja and I'm a marketing manager at McGraw Hill based in Dubai. Now, before we start, I'm just going to pause and check if it's Saturday. Thank you. It's not Friday, it's Saturday. Thank you for joining us on a Saturday. Before we begin, I'm just going to pause and check if the audio connection is okay. So on your screens on the right side, just below your name, you'll see an icon of a hand. Can you please click on the icon if you can hear my voice? So we know that everyone's okay. Great, great, great. You can all hear me. Amazing. Just to give you a brief overview of the session, this is an implementation training session for Reading Wonders 2020. So if you're teaching grades K to 6 and are using Reading Wonders 2020 in the upcoming academic year, this session is for you. You will learn about teaching strategies and redesigning your classroom for back to school. And we are absolutely excited to have Donna Healy join with us today. Thank you, Donna, for joining us.
Thank you, Suresh.
Thanks a lot. Just covering the moderators for today. That's my colleagues Afsana and Samer. We'll be going and helping you out with the queries in the chat box and the Q&A. So if you have any questions for Donna, feel free to put them out in the Q&A. And if you have anything, you can just chat with us. So we'll be able to help you out with your questions. A bit of background about Donna before we hand over to Afsana. Donna joined McGraw Hill in 2013 and has been delivering Wonders training sessions to hundreds of educators. She also has a master's degree in education administration and leadership from Georgian Court University. And Donna has also been an elementary teacher, and she's been delivering hundreds of these sessions around in US and abroad. So thank you again, Donna, for joining us.
You're very welcome. It's my honor.
Thanks. I'm just going to hand over to my colleague Afsana, who'll go over the housekeeping slides, and then we can let Donna begin with the presentation.
Thanks, Sarah. Just a quick sound check. You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, brilliant. As Sarah mentioned, I'm just going to do a bit of housekeeping before we begin, just to make sure the experience for you guys is as seamless as possible for the next hour and a half. So in terms of audio, I think you all seem to be connected on fine, but if you do have any issues with the sound, I would recommend just disconnecting from the computer audio and calling in using the phone option and selecting your country or your location number. I would recommend if there's anyone in the house who's using the same internet as you and they're using any high bandwidth platforms that's impacting your network, I'll recommend switching those off as well. Of course, if you do miss anything during the call because of any connectivity issues, we are recording the session and we'll be circulating that to you all after the webinar as well. The recording will be sent in an email within a week of today, which will also include your certificate, which you can download. And then we will have a Q&A at the end as well. And then finally, just to cover off the Q&A and the chat box on the side that you can see. So you probably noticed we don't have your microphones on just because of the settings we have used to set up the call. However, you can use the Q&A and the chat box on the side to ask any questions, add any comments, and if you have any technical issues, do also just drop me a message in the chat box privately and I'll make sure we can get you up and running properly as well. We also have a feedback function, which is just a little microphone above the chat box, which you can use as well if Donna asks any questions. Which needs that function, you can use that as well. So I'll now pass over to you, Donna.
Thank you, Afsana. Good day, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm in the U.S. state of New Jersey, so I'm on the East Coast. We had very violent thunderstorms last night, so today, this morning, the sun has not yet risen here in New Jersey. It is a cool 23 degrees Celsius. So I am very happy to be with you. I know you are in the middle of your afternoon. If you could, in the chat box, could you just drop in the name, where are you in the world? If you could just let us all know. I know we have some colleagues from Egypt. They've identified themselves already. So if you could just let us know, yes, some more friends from Egypt and Lebanon. Very nice. Very nice. Kuwait, excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate your presence here today. Thank you so much. We have quite a few colleagues with us. We have almost 80 participants on the call with us today. Excellent. More colleagues checking in from Egypt and Kuwait, from Saudi Arabia. Excellent. Thank you so much and welcome. So really, our goal today is to offer academic implementation guidance for Wonders 2020. You might find it handy to take some notes throughout our time together. In fact, there may be some times when I say, this is important, you might want to take a note. Just one quick note before we really dive in. New Wonders teachers often tell us that they feel very overwhelmed. There are so many Wonders resources that you will get to know. There's a digital platform that you have to explore. So there are so many new things, not to mention you're getting to know your new learners, and most likely will be in a virtual school environment this upcoming school year. So when teachers tell us they feel very overwhelmed, we often say, please be patient with yourselves. We know you're very patient with your students, so please, afford yourselves that same courtesy. So, all right, let's begin. If you could, again, thank you all for responding. We are from many countries today. All right, so our agenda is very clear. I would like to offer you an overview of Wonders, sort of the large view from the beginning of the year to the end. And then we'll drill down a little further and we'll look at the instructional path, and that will get you from day to day in your teaching. We are going to touch on assessment. We are going to dive a little bit deeper into the technology today. And as we wrap up, I'm going to offer you some resources that you might find helpful in your lesson planning. So that's our agenda for today. All right, my colleagues, if you have a note, you might want to take this down. This is the overview of Wonders, the broadest view. If you are teaching our youngest learners in kindergarten, you will find 10 units of instruction. Each unit is 3 weeks long, and each unit is centered under a big idea. In kindergarten, we have something called Start Smart. I'll talk more about that in a moment. And that is really our unit 0. My colleagues in first grade, you will have 6 units for the year. And each unit has 6 weeks. So we ask students to think and listen and speak and read and write about a big idea for a little bit longer. My colleagues in first grade, your Start Smart is also unit 0. And remember, I'm going to talk about Start Smart a little more in a moment. If you are teaching students in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, you will also have 6 units for your year, 6 weeks per unit, but your Start Smart will begin with your content. So you do not have a unit 0. Wonders is really grounded in genre. You will find as you explore the Wonders resources that you will see equal amounts of authentic literature in English as well as informational text in science and social studies. In kindergarten and in first grade, we teach students about genre. In 2nd through 6th grades, we teach students through genre, because we know that when students can read broadly, when they understand characteristics of a genre, they read much more deeply. The Wonders resources that you see are carefully connected. So remember we said it is centered under a big idea. We begin each week when we ask an essential question. So it doesn't matter which resource you touch during your Wonders Week, every resource relates to that same essential question, that same big idea. The vocabulary that you introduce early in your teaching week, students will see in multiple texts throughout their study. The comprehension skill and strategy that you teach and model, they will practice and apply. Writing, grammar, the same skills that you model, they will practice and apply. So whether you are teaching students in whole group, in small group, whether we are virtual or hopefully one day we'll be back face-to-face, your Wonders resources are powerfully connected. May I ask quickly in the chat box, could you just let me know if my pace is too fast or too slow? Because I can adjust to what you need. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate your kindness. Thank you so much. Very good. All right, we'll continue then. So I know when I taught English language arts for a long time at many grade levels, and whenever I would get new resources, I always wanted to read the stories. And so I would just page through all those pages in the beginning, all that front matter. So I would invite you, after you read the first few stories, because perhaps you are as excited about them as I was, I would invite you to circle back to the front matter, because in Wonders, the front matter matters. Remember we talked about Start Smart? My kinder and first grade colleagues, your Start Smart is Unit 0. My second through sixth grade colleagues, your Start Smart begins with your Unit 1, Week 1. So Start Smart has two purposes. One, you might want to make a note. Start Smart has two purposes. One, to establish routines and procedures that we will use the entire year. So we begin as we mean to go. When we invite students into collaborative conversation, what does that mean? What do we want them to do? We practice that in Start Smart. When we ask students to come back, to go back into text and to cite evidence in answering a question, what does that look like? So we practice in Start Smart. Now, kinder, first grade, we do this before we hold students accountable for content. So that's why you will find your Start Smart as Unit 0. My colleagues in second grade and above, just a brief history. I've been with Wonders since its inception, since 2013 when we launched the 2014 edition. And at that time, Start Smart was its own Unit 0 for all grades. And pretty quickly, teachers in second through sixth grade said, please don't make us do routines for 2 weeks. We can do it. We can do it with content. So now the author team at McGraw Hill is very responsive to teachers. And so now Start Smart is embedded with content. So remember I told you Start Smart has two purposes, and the first is to establish routines and procedures. The second is to allow time for you to administer a placement and diagnostic assessment. And the purpose of the placement assessment is simply to say, this is an approaching grade level reader. This is an on grade level reader. This reader is beyond grade level. That is solely the purpose of the placement assessment. For the first time this year, the placement assessment is available online in response to the virtual teaching situation that we all find ourselves in. So, two purposes, smart, smart. Routines and procedures, placement assessment. All right, so now we're going to continue opening this front matter. You'll find your table of contents. Each unit, 10 in kinder, 6 in other grades, each unit contains genre studies. In kindergarten, each genre study is 1 week long. Very easy. In first grade and above, your genre study 1 is 2 weeks long. Your genre study 2 is 2 weeks long. Your genre study 3 is 1 week long. Now, some of you may be saying to me, but you said my unit was 6 weeks, 2 and 2, 1 is only 5. Very good, very good. In every unit, 1st through 6th grade, we have a week 6, whose purpose is to review, extend, and assess. So that's how we get our 6-week units. Genre study 1, 2 weeks. Genre study 2, 2 weeks. Genre study 3, 1 week. And week 6 is review, extend, assess. All right, let's continue to look at the unit overview. So we have our genre studies, genre study 1, 2, 3, week 6, review, extend, assess. Wonders is color-coded, and this just makes me so happy. So whenever you see a red ribbon or a red bar, you know that that is an assessment of some kind. On the left-hand side of this page, I have a blue bar, and it says reading. So this royal blue color is the color for all of our reading comprehension instruction. You'll find this on the pages of your teacher edition. You'll find this on the digital platform. So this color code carries through whether you are working with print resources or digital resources. This green bar denotes language arts instruction, writing, grammar, spelling, vocabulary. And again, you'll find this lime green color on your pages and on the digital platform. There are 2 more features of Wonders that I'd like to point out on this unit overview. And you'll see these in your teacher editions. This is a key skills trace. One of our authors, Dr. Douglas Fisher, tells us that our students should never have to guess what we want them to learn. Our learning goals should always be clear. We should always make our learning visible. This key skills trace really makes our teaching visible. You'll notice as you use your Wonders resources that Wonders is recursive. So we never touch a skill or strategy once. We always circle back. We review and reteach and review. So this key skills trace tells you when a skill is introduced, when it is reviewed, and when it is assessed. So we don't teach to mastery the first time. Some of our students, yes, they will master a skill when we introduce it, but others need extra practice. So the curriculum is recursive. This key skills trace makes teaching visible for us. Finally, the last feature that I'd like to point out is social emotional learning. We know that you are not just teaching your students to read English. You are teaching them how to comport themselves in a classroom, how to work cooperatively with peers, how to speak respectfully to adults. So the social emotional lessons in Wonders will help you to establish a positive classroom culture, to really instill in your students positive habits of learning, and to help them to grow and monitor their emotions. I think this is particularly powerful, this social emotional learning piece, particularly today. Okay, we have covered a lot of front matter, a lot of overview so far. Could you please type in the chat box one thing that you have noticed or that you would like to remember? Afsana, I think some of our participants are saying they cannot hear us.
I can hear you all right.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Can, I guess, upload content? I can see your screen as well.
Excellent, I just wanted to be sure, thank you.
Zainab, maybe you can try to log in again and see if you can see the screen. Yeah, I think Summer has suggested you the same. Thank you. I'll let you continue, Donna.
Thank you so much. Excellent. I always appreciate the color code as well. I think that just helps me as a teacher to stay organized. The social emotional learning piece is so important. Several of our colleagues noted that as something they would like to remember. It is so important that we make our learning goals visible for our students. So true. Yes, I like the layout of a teacher edition as well. I think it's very well organized. So true, so true. One of our colleagues noted that it is important to remember how to establish a social emotional connection, especially when we are learning virtually and not in classes. I've been reading a lot about that over the summer. You know, some of the things that we would do in face-to-face instruction, we can adapt to digital learning. So, you know, the computer, the technology is not the core of our teaching and learning. You're still the core of the teaching. You are the core of the learning. You are still the most important element to students' learning. The technology now, it's just the means. It's just the way. So, all right, excellent. Yes, and I'll just wrap up with that. I think you'll find that the Wonders resources really help your students to be responsible for their own learning. And I agree with our colleague, that is so important. All right, so let's take a look at the instructional path. Thank you all for your comments. I appreciate you working in the chat. Let's take a look at the instructional path. So every unit, just to review, every unit is centered under a big idea. Every week of instruction begins when we ask an essential question. And then at all grade levels, we read aloud to our students. In kindergarten and in first grade, our interactive read aloud is in the form of a big book. They are fantastic. I really enjoy them. In second grade and above, the interactive read aloud is in your teacher edition. And then as our week unfolds, we move students to a shared read. We use the shared read to teach and to model. The shared read is short and complex for a purpose, because it's with this text that we model comprehension skills and strategies. As our week unfolds, we move students to an anchor text. The anchor text is authentic literature in English or rich informational text in science and social studies. In Wonders, there's never ever just one of everything. There are always two or more. So in addition to the anchor text, there is a paired read, just another selection that still connects to the content. At all grade levels, but particularly at kindergarten and first grade, you can deliver daily explicit phonics instruction, which really builds foundational skills in your students. We have a mantra in Wonders. If we read about it, we write about it. So you'll find daily language arts and analytic writing lessons. And of course, Wonders supports small group instruction. You'll find lots of resources to work with your students at specific levels. So this is a broad understanding of how your genre study, how your weeks unfold. Now let's look at each piece. So we begin each week when we ask an essential question. Wonders likes to foster collaborative conversation between students. So whenever you see this icon of the two children speaking to each other, you'll know that that's an invitation for your students. Even virtually, we can ask them to work in pairs or in trios. We help students build background. What do they know about this essential question? In their reading, writing companion, they will find a graphic organizer. The graphic organizer is also available digitally. Everything that is in print is also available digitally. So while we are teaching in this virtual world, students can type in their answers. So once we ask our essential question, we invite students into collaborative conversation. Then we read aloud. This is an example of a big book from first grade. The big books are also available digitally. And every text has audio support. So if students enjoy the book and they want to hear it again when they are not with you, they can always log into the digital platform and listen to the book again. You will also find on interactive read aloud cards in kinder and first grade. This is a different story. So lots of opportunities to read aloud. In second grade and above, your interactive read aloud will be in your teacher edition. Now, I'd like to point out something about the read aloud. We often say that when we read out loud, we think out loud so that our students can think along. And that's a really important feature of the read aloud. Yes, it is important that students hear English read out loud. And they gain some background knowledge from what we are reading. But we also get a chance to make our thinking audible. So this interactive read aloud is a think aloud, so our students can think along. Now, your students will have two resources. The first is the Reading Writing Companion. This is a soft cover, an interactive resource. It is intended that students will write in this. Remember that whatever is in print is also available digitally. The Reading Writing Companion was named purposefully because this is their everyday book. This is their companion in their reading writing journey. This is not just a workbook. This really becomes a student's journal where they get to reflect on text and add new vocabulary that they're learning. They get to write about what they've read. So this was named purposefully. This is a companion in their journey. In the shared read, the short, complex text, the text that we use to model and to teach, it is with this shared read that we first model our close reading routine. Developed by Dr. Douglas Fisher, this close reading routine helps our students to go deeper into text. And of course, the close reading routine is color-coded because that's the Wonders way. So the first time we read a text with students, we decode. Maybe we read this out loud too. And we call it a shared read because together, students and teachers share the responsibility for comprehension. So when we read this out loud, students are free to understand. They don't have to invest their mental energies in decoding. And they can get the gist. They can come away with surface understanding of the text. All of the read prompts will be noted with this red arrow. Now, I don't understand everything I read the first time through. I often have to reread, but I don't necessarily reread the entire passage. I might reread a portion for a purpose. And that's what we model in our close reading routine. So when we reread, now we're thinking about author's craft. Now we're thinking about the structure. Is this literature or informational text? And all of the reread prompts are marked by this green arrow. As our teaching week unfolds and we introduce different texts, students have an opportunity to integrate. They can make those really important text-to-text connections. And so the integrate prompts are marked with this blue arrow. At each reread, we take our students deeper into the text. We are able to ask, and more importantly, they are able to answer depth of knowledge questions that are more complex. This example from the Reading Writing Companion, this shared read example, is in the student's Reading Writing Companion. So we see the essential question. We see where students would have an opportunity to write in their books or to type in the digital version of their book. Lessons in Wonders unfold using the gradual release of responsibility model. The I do, we do, you do. Note the collaborate icon. This reminds us that we can invite students to chat with each other about what they're thinking, right? Because we think out loud before. Sometimes, I'll think, well, I just need to think this out loud. So it's important that we give our students that same opportunity before they write. The talk is the verbal rehearsal for their writing. In Wonders, we introduce vocabulary after students have experienced a shared read, so that they see that vocabulary in text. We find that that is a much more powerful strategy than having them write out definitions or even write sentences. Remember one of our Wonders mantras, if we read about it, we write about it. students have an opportunity to respond to the shared read. And their reading writing companion will offer some grammar connections and some sentence starters, which are so important for our students who are learning English as a second or third language. Everything that's available in print is also available digitally. I know I keep saying that, but in this world, I think we just have to emphasize that. All right, I would like to pause here. If you reflect upon the shared read, please note in the chat box something that you would like to remember or something that you found important. And I'm just going to page slowly through this so you can remember. So important, right, that students learn vocabulary through text, because then they see it in context. Then they can make sense of the sentence in which that vocabulary word is embedded. Thank you. I appreciate your comments. That think aloud is so important. Yes, that color code, it just makes my heart happy. It helps keep us on track. I think because Wonders uses so many texts throughout the week that our students are more engaged, because maybe they don't find one genre particularly interesting, but they like the topic. So they know there are going to be multiple texts throughout the week. Yes, this is an excellent question. Oral vocabulary in kinder, some words are pre-taught, but yes, they are taught. Vocabulary in kinder is also taught through context. Yes, excellent question. Thank you, kindergarten colleagues. I'm going to just offer a few of your colleagues' comments because I just think your level of understanding is so significant that I want to share your ideas with all of us here. So one colleague noted, not only are we teaching them comprehension skills, we are also teaching them to be outspoken. And I think it's important that they learn to speak their ideas in a respectful and organized way. So thank you for that. Very well said. All right, so I'm going to continue. We had two resources for your students. We talked about the Reading Writing Companion, that interactive text. It is with the shared read that we teach and model. The second resource that your students will have is an anthology. The anthology is a hardback book. So that was not intended that they should write in it, but instead, that is where they will find their anchor text and paired read. If the shared read is where we teach and model, the anchor text is where students practice and apply. So the shared read is the tool that we use to teach and model. The anchor text is the tool that our students use to practice and apply. Shared read, teach and model, anchor text, practice and apply. In kindergarten, your anchor texts will be in 32 literature big books. In first grade and above, your anthology will either be softcover or hardcover. But really, this is a collection of trade books that are all bound together. Even in your big book, you will find two selections, your anchor text and a paired selection. So we do not forget our kindergartners. They too have two selections. You'll find the anchor text is very rigorous. And students may need some on-ramps. They may need some help accessing that text. You can count on your teacher edition to provide some support. When you see these bubbles, these ACT bubbles, access, complex, text, you know that these ACT bubbles will help you to understand why this text is complex so that you can communicate that to your students. So if I were, for example, if I were teaching a fantasy story to kindergartners or first graders, maybe they would have trouble with that because if the animals in the story talk, they might think, this doesn't make sense to me. Animals don't talk in real life. So I would be able to say, well, this is a fantasy story, and here is a characteristic. So you can rely on these ACT bubbles, access, complex, text, to give you the support that you need to help your students to find on-ramps into the anchor text. Never just one of anything in Wonders. Anchor text plus a paired selection. Both of these selections are connected to the essential question, but they are different genres. So the anchor text is expository. The paired read is a personal narrative. Maybe as a student, as a reader of English, I might struggle with an expository text. It might be a little too rigorous, but I can read someone else's account. I can read someone's story. So the anchor text and the paired selection really give students a chance to practice and apply. All right, I'll pause here. We've talked about the two resources that our students have, the Reading Writing Companion, which houses our shared read, and the anthology, which students will use to find their anchor text and their paired read. If you would please comment in the chat box something that you've noticed or something that you would like to remember about the anthology. And I'm going to grab a sip of water, pardon me. That gradual release of responsibility model, I do, we do, you do, is so important. A quick question from our kindergarten colleagues. What's the difference between oral vocabulary and category words in kinder? Excellent question. So oral vocabulary helps students understand what they're hearing. They're not expected to spell those words. They're not really expected to read them. They're just expected to understand when they hear them in context. A category word, like for example, feelings, happy, sad, mad, joyful. So those are category words. The oral vocabulary words are taught define, example, ask. Define, example, ask. category words, I would have to look that up. I'm sorry, I cannot recall how they are taught. I suspect it's a similar routine, so thank you for bringing that up. A lot of participants today are commenting about the ACT bubbles. They are really helpful for us as teachers. In Wonders, you heard me talk a lot already today about complex text. This is really how we move our students' reading skills forward. Now, in kinder and first grade, when students are learning to decode, when they're building foundational skills, they really need to have text that they can read, that they can decode. But once students have strong foundational skills, the way that we move them forward, the way that we help them to be stronger readers is really giving them text that is just, you know, the zone of proximal development. They just have to reach a little bit. And again, you are the most important resource because you're right there to support them and to guide them. Excellent question. Love the way you're thinking. All right, so I'm going to move forward through the instructional path. Using Wonders resources, you will find daily systematic and explicit phonics instruction, particularly in kinder and grade 1. But Wonders does not forget that sometimes our older students still need foundational skills and word work. So at every grade level, you will find foundational skills and word work lessons that you can deliver every day. Because our kinder, first and second graders are really still learning to read, you will find dozens of decodable texts. They are available in print. They are also available digitally. So I wanted to point this out. Students have access to a practice book. Of course, if they were in a classroom with us, we would select the pages that we would like them to complete. The same is true when we're teaching virtually. This practice book is really comprehensive because this is where students can practice vocabulary that they're learning. This is where they can practice phonics. They can practice spelling. They can practice grammar. They can practice handwriting. This is a very, very comprehensive practice book. And you can assign this digitally the same way students would complete this paper pencil. This is a very valuable resource. I love this practice book. It's just, there's everything there. Now, because we are in a digital environment, and often because some of the students we teach just grow up with digital devices in their little hands, you will find dozens of digital games on the Wonders platform. And students can practice phonemic awareness, phonics, spelling, grammar, vocabulary, comprehension, so many games. Some of the games are practice. Some games or activities actually collect data on how students are progressing. So, you know, they think they're playing a game, but we know how their skills are progressing because we can see their scores. If we read about it, we write about it in Wonders, and you will have opportunities every day for your students to write analytically. You will have opportunities every week for students to work on a genre writing piece. There are grammar practice opportunities, vocabulary, and research and inquiry projects. You might not touch those early on, but as you learn more about Wonders, you will find the research and inquiry projects are very, very valuable because students really get to synthesize what they've been learning and thinking about. And I think they have a lot of fun with the projects. So just to summarize language arts, you will find daily, explicit, and connected language arts instruction, grammar, spelling, vocabulary, and remember our collaborate icon. Why can't students talk about grammar? Why can't they think that out loud? Why can't they talk about vocabulary with a classmate? At every grade level, students get to practice genre writing. Multiple opportunities per unit in the upper grades, one opportunity per unit in the primary grades. So students would have an opportunity to write pencil to paper or to use a digital resource to plan their writing, to draft, to revise, to edit, proofread, and finally to publish. And as a teacher, you get to see all of your students' work digitally. They can just submit it to you. In the same way that you would make a comment on their paper and send it back, you can make comments in the writer's notebook. So you can continue to have a conversation. Wonders has opportunities. Wonders has resources for whole group instruction and also for small group instruction. Here's another example of the Wonders color code. So when you see a leveled reader with an orange spine, this orangey color, you'll know that this is an approaching level text. So this text is anywhere from 6 months to 1 year below grade level. This is an approaching level text. The spine is orange. This is how I remember it. Their skills are a little rusty. So the text has this rusty orange color on the spine of the book. 6 months to 1 year below grade level. I'm going to jump here to this blue. When you see the blue spine, you know that this is an on-level text. So if you are near the sea and your sea is blue, when you are at sea level, you are on level. That's how I remember, because I'm kind of near the sea too. When you see a leveled reader with a green spine, these are the students who go, go, go. So they get the green light to go. Now I'm just going to jump back. When you see a text with a purple spine, this is a royal color for our students who are learning English as another language. So the leveled readers are color-coded. You would use these in small group. We differentiate text so that we can accelerate our students' reading. Because our schools around the world had to move to virtual learning back in the spring, McGraw Hill recognizes that maybe some of our students are not as prepared coming into the school year as they would have been. So on the digital platform, you will also find an apprentice level reader. It is not pictured here, but it is being made available to you on the digital platform. And this apprentice level reader is 2 years below grade level. And the color code is a yellow, like a more pale shade of orange. It's like a yellow or a salmon color. And that is available to you and your students digitally to help support students who had interrupted face-to-face instruction back in the spring. So you'll use leveled readers for small group instruction. You'll find support. You'll find instruction, You'll find instructional supports in your teacher edition for the leveled reader. And you will also find leveled reader lesson cards. You may have these in print, but they are certainly available digitally. For every leveled reader, you'll have a leveled reader lesson card. See the ACT bubbles? It's a very, very rich experience for your students when you use the leveled reader lesson cards. This is an example of your teacher edition. The color code carries through. So to help you to decide how to group your students, you'll use the placement assessment. The placement assessment available for the first time digitally this year. The second purpose of your Start Smart time, when you administer that placement assessment, it will help you to decide this is an approaching level reader, this is an on level reader, this is a beyond level reader. Also, in your teacher edition, the color code carries through. So when I see these orange ribbons, I know this is approaching level. I'll use this with my approaching level students. I also wanted to point out these tier 2 bubbles. Sometimes our students just need more support. I taught 4th grade, and some of my readers were at a 1st grade level. So I needed to continue to build foundational skills with them. On the digital space, you will find tier 2 intervention resources. And there are literally hundreds of additional lessons: phonemic awareness, phonics, word study, comprehension, vocabulary, fluency, writing, and grammar. All of this is available digitally. So if we are, when I have to be hopeful, right? When we return to face-to-face instruction with a small group in front of us, what are the rest of our students doing? You might find these workstation activity cards are helpful. You'll have 4 for every week of Wonders instruction. So there's always a reading card. There's always a writing card. There's always a phonics and word study card. And the 4th card is either science or social studies, depending upon the content. The cards are leveled. See the blue ribbon on the front? This is your on-level task. When we turn the card on the back, you'll find an approaching level modification or a beyond level extension. So the workstation cards are leveled. Students might like to do these independently too when we're in a virtual environment. All right, if you could please just note in the chat box one that you would like to remember about the resources that we have available to us in Wonders. Foundational skills, decodable readers, this very powerful practice book, the different games, language arts lessons, leveled readers, tier 2 intervention. Those leveled readers are so powerful. It really does. Thank you so much. This is an excellent observation. The leveled readers reach everyone so that no learner is left behind. Thank you. So the teacher's guide, the teacher edition that you receive, will support your teaching in whole group and small group. So the differentiated lessons that go along with the leveled readers are in your teacher edition. These tier 2 intervention resources are outside of your teacher edition. Thank you for helping me to clarify this. These are available on the digital platform. That they are not typically in print, at least in the US. They are not typically in print. They are only digital. So teachers would print a page that they want students to complete. The practice book is one level. In previous editions, we had differentiated practice pages. I didn't think they were all that different, truth be told. But you know, you will know your learners better than anyone. And maybe you say to them, we're going to complete this together, or I want you to complete this with a partner, with a classmate, or you can go off and do this on your own. You know, sometimes the differentiation is the level of support that we provide, not necessarily a difference in the work that students are doing. So I hope that helps. All right, let's talk about assessment. I'm checking time. I'm more on time today than I was in our last session. So thank you all for helping me to stay on track. Let's talk about assessment. I want to be very clear about this. The assessment library that you will find in Wonders is extensive. The author team never intended that you would administer every assessment to every child every year. The author team wanted to build an assessment library so that you could choose what you administer and when. So for example, I'm just going to say it again. Every assessment is available in print, and now it is available digitally. During your Start Smart, we encourage you to administer the placement assessment so that you get an idea right away how to group your students, approaching, on, beyond. Maybe you assess some students and they're not quite approaching level readers. Maybe you think, maybe there's something else going on. So then you can administer any number of diagnostic assessments that are in the Wonders Assessment Library. So maybe you need another phonics screener. It's there. Maybe you want an oral reading fluency assessment. You'll find it there. Maybe students can read out loud beautifully, but they don't understand what they read, so you need a comprehension screener. You'll find it. So the Placement and Diagnostic Assessment Library is extensive. You'll get to use what you need. In first grade and above, we offer progress monitoring assessments bi-weekly. So remember, in first grade and above, our genre study 1 is 2 weeks long. So at the end of that genre study, there is a progress monitoring assessment. Genre study 2 is 2 weeks long. At the end of that genre study, there is a progress monitoring assessment. The progress monitoring consists of a cold read, several cold reads, in fact. So again, students have to apply those skills with text they've never seen. But it's the same genre that we've been teaching all week. It's a similar content. Same vocabulary is there. These assessments are editable. So you can edit the instructions. You can edit the test questions. You certainly don't have to. You can administer them as they are written. In the progress monitoring assessment at grades 1 and above, there is also an optional writing assignment, because if we read about it, we write about it. So if we practice that all week during our instruction, why would we not assess that? But maybe you don't want to assess your first graders on a writing assignment the first month of school in a virtual environment. So you choose with your grade level colleagues, with your leadership. You create your assessment protocol for your grade and for your school. There is also an end of unit assessment. Again, cold reads. There are benchmark assessments. that you would typically administer at the middle of the year and at the end of the year. We don't have a benchmark for the beginning of the year because we're administering a placement and diagnostic. So the benchmarks are at the middle of the year and at the end of the year. This is what I'd like you to remember about assessment. Everything that's available in print is available digitally. The Wonders Assessment Library is extensive so that you can choose. And you can also choose to modify an assessment before you give it. We could spend an hour and a half just on assessment. So I just wanted to give you an overview there. We know that everything that's available in print is available online. With every assessment that's taken digitally, students' responses flow into Data Dashboard. And then there are a series of reports that you can generate to help you see how your students are progressing by skill or by standard. The recommendations report that you see pictured helps you decide what to do next. I have some students who are still at approaching level. How can I help them? Well, the recommendations report will point out some Wonders resources that you might find helpful. Okay, I'd like to transition to technology because this is such a big part of our world today. Feel free to make a note of our website. When you go to my.mheducation.com, you will have access to our ConnectEd resources for Wonders. Now, I know it's not yet time for you to start school. You may have some weeks yet. And eventually you will have your own username and password. You will have your own personalized credentials. But for right now, feel free to use our training site. This is our training credential. The username is Digital Teacher, all lowercase, closed up, no spaces. And the password, also all lowercase, MHE 2020 ELA. Feel free to use this so that you can explore before you have your own personalized credentials. my.mheducation.com. The username is Digital Teacher. The password, MHE 2020 ELA. When you log in, you will have both a teacher edition and a student edition for your grade level. When you log in using the training codes, you'll see every grade level, kindergarten through grade 6. This is what your teacher edition platform looks like. A couple things to point out. Remember we talked about the color code? So here's my whole group reading instruction. There's that royal blue. Here's my whole group language arts instruction. Here's that lime green. So the color code that is in print carries over to the digital platform. All the instructional routines that are in your teacher edition are also here. When you click on this arrow and the boxes unfold, you can drill down and see every instructional routine exactly as it is in your teacher edition. You'll have an opportunity to set a calendar. So Wonders will help you to keep pace. This is what I do today. This is what I'll do tomorrow. And every day that you log in, Wonders will move from day 1 to day 2 to day 3 to day 4. In the middle of your screen, you'll see this heading called Today's Presentation. I have to tell you, had I had Wonders, I never would have left my 4th grade classroom or my 6th grade classroom. I still would have been there teaching. For every day of Wonders instruction, every day, every week, every unit, every grade is a presentation already made. So like a PowerPoint, it is already made. You can customize this. When you change your planner, it changes what's in your presentation. So this presentation, I think, is going to be very valuable for teachers who are working in a digital environment. Remember we talked about the practice book and how comprehensive it is? Under the heading Weekly Printables, you'll find the different sections of the practice book. So you'll find your grammar practice, you'll find your spelling practice, your vocabulary practice, your fluency practice, your comprehension practice. And you can assign them to your students. You click on the gear and click Assign. So it's pretty straightforward. All of the games that are available to your students for the week are on the bottom of your screen. So maybe early on, you model these when you're together in whole group or small group digitally. And then as students get more familiar with the types of games, then you can assign them. So again, the gear is your friend. When you click on the gear, the drop-down menu unfolds. You choose Assign this resource. There's also a shallow integration to Google Classroom. So if you're working in the Google Suite, you can share this resource through your Google Classroom. There is a lot here to explore. Please make a note of this click path because there is so much here and we have so little time. When you log into the training site, hover over Resources. When the drop-down menu unfolds, select Professional Development. Resources, Professional Development. You will find an overview of Wonders. Essentially, it's like having a trainer on demand. You can watch these Wonders Basics videos at your convenience. You'll also find digital help because for every function on the digital platform, there is a short, focused video and printable instructions with screenshots. So this Resources Professional Development tab is, I think it's going to be very helpful for you as you continue to explore. Wonders has a digital planner, and I encourage you to explore this as well. If you go to Plan, so hover over the Plan tab, the drop-down menu unfolds, select Weekly Planner. Plan, Weekly Planner. What you saw in your teacher edition for day-to-day instruction will be here on your weekly planner. You can drag and drop lessons from one day to the next. Whenever you change your planner, it automatically changes your presentation. So if you didn't get to finish something today and you want to start with that tomorrow, you just drag it to the next day and ConnectEd will automatically move all of those resources to the next day. Because this is really, we are in an unprecedented time. We're teaching virtually when we never expected to do that at an elementary level. McGraw Hill has put together a folder of back-to-school support resources. So your click path is Resources, Resource Library, Back-to-School Support. One of the things that you might like is a scavenger hunt. The scavenger hunt will help your students to get to know the Student Center. Pardon me, my slides were a little out of order. So remember I talked about the planner? This is what it looks like on the digital platform. I knew I had it. So you can just drag any one of these boxes over to the next day if you want to reorder. Now, what do your students see when they log in? This is your student platform. This is what they see when they log in. So when your calendar is accurate, when your students log in and they click on the book, it will say, read. All of the texts for the week are automatically there. When they click on the games controller and it says, games, you'll hear it. You'll hear it, and then you'll say, oh, that's what she was talking about. All the games that are connected to this week's instruction will be right there. Words to know, all their vocabulary, oral vocabulary, will all be there. High frequency words, they'll be there automatically. Okay, so I know I heard in the chat, we have to explore. I can't wait to explore. So I have some planning resources to share. I'm going to back up to answer a quick question. So when your, let me back all the way up. When your unit and week changes, because ConnectEd is going to keep this calendar for you, when your unit and week changes, that will change what your students see. So when you move from genre study 1 to genre study 2, that will change. If you change routines within the genre study, I'm not going to do this on day 1, I'm going to do this on day 2, all of those resources are still available to your students. So it will not mess them up. They will still have access to everything for the week. Good question. Thank you for asking that. Okay, so some planning resources. When you access your teacher edition, either digitally or when you have it in hard copy, you'll see a suggested lesson plan. We know that planner is also available on the digital space. I'm going to share a bit.ly address with you. You might snap a picture of the screen or write down this https://bit.ly/2, capital X, capital T, capital F, capital P, lowercase ti. When you go to this link, thank you, Sarish. She's so good. She just dropped the link into the chat. You'll find a planning resource. We often use this in face-to-face training to help teachers to get to know their teacher edition. Sometimes teachers like to use this before they do lesson planning because this really helps them to do their intellectual prep. It really helps teachers to think through what they're going to teach for the week. You'll also find on this bit.ly, you'll also find your teacher edition in its entirety. You'll find it in PDF form. It's also available on the digital platform, but sometimes teachers like to have it here. And you'll also find a bookmark that highlights some of the things that we've talked about today. The shared reading routine. So I hope that this was very helpful. I did a little better with my time today. Perhaps there were some questions in chat that I did not get to see. I was trying to read that and integrate answers right away. So Sarish, Afsana, if there are any questions maybe I could answer that I have missed. Best wishes. Yeah, teachers in Saudi Arabia are saying tomorrow is their first day of school. So best wishes as you begin. I'll be thinking of you.
Thank you, Donna. That was a very thorough session, and we hope that was helpful for everyone who is watching us. Thank you. We have a few questions, yes. And if you have any questions for Donna at this point, we have a few minutes, so please drop them in the Q&A box. That's on the right side, just below. So please drop them off if you have any questions for Donna. And Donna, there's a question from Nahla. What is the importance of word sight words?
Oh, yes, excellent question. So sight words, high frequency words, these are words that occur most often in English texts. So students should just recognize them quickly without having to sound them out. And in Wonders, when we introduce high frequency words, we introduce them using the read, spell, write routine. So we might project the word on the screen, or in face-to-face instruction, we would hold up a card, and we would, for example, the first word in kindergarten that we introduce is the. So we would say the, read, spell, write, read the. So the teacher reads, and then the students read chorally. And then we would ask them to spell it, T-H-E. The teacher would say it first, then the students would respond chorally. And then we would ask them to get out their skywriting pencil. They use their little finger, and they would write T-H-E. So we read, spell, write. That way, when students see these words in text, it does not slow them down in any way.
Thanks, Donna. Another question is, and you have some lovely comments in the chat box, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, amazing
They're
lecture.
so very
Appreciate
generous.
your hard work.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Teachers are so generous. Thank you.
So it's from Nada. It says, are digital games available also for pre-K?
Let me think. World of Wonders games.
By the way, Nada, we have a specific session for pre-K if you'd like to join. So you can join us that session. I just wanted to let her know. You can join us for a pre-K session. You just have to register at the same link where you registered for this one, and you'd be able to, but yeah, okay, Donna, you can continue. Sorry, I just had to let her know.
No, I'm glad. Truthfully, I have not worked with World of Wonders for some time, and I do not feel confident answering those questions, but I'm glad to know there's a session just dedicated to that resource, because it too is very valuable. So I'm sorry, I don't have an answer to that question.
Thank you, no worries. So Nada, we have a pre-K webinar that's on Tuesday, 15 September. And we have a repeat session on Friday, 18 September. It's the same link where you registered for this webinar. So if you could register for that one, we can ask your question there. And are all the assessments, are they related to all the branches we have covered in Wonders?
Yes. Yes. So typically the progress monitoring that is available every other week assesses the skills and strategies that have been taught in that genre study. The unit assessment is more extensive. In addition to comprehension skills and strategies, it would assess grammar, writing. In the primary grades, it also assesses phonics skills. So yes, everything that we've taught through the genre study and the unit is assessed in one form or another. Pardon me.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Great. There's another question from Amira. Do we have a certain test to identify their levels before we decide their leveled books? Great question.
Yeah, a great question. Typically, teachers would use the placement assessment, and that would help them to decide approaching on or beyond level reader.
Thanks. And then, does the lesson plan include the 5 E's in order: explore, exploration, explanation, and evaluation?
In Inspire Science it does, but not in Wonders.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought so. I just thought we'll just address that for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And then there's a question, do you suggest we present the vocabulary book first before reading using the 3-step routine, because that's what most teachers do where I am?
Yeah, well, teachers know their students best. And you'll remember in previous editions of Wonders, we did introduce vocabulary first. In Wonders 2020, we introduced text first and then circle back to vocabulary. This is what Dr. Timothy Shanahan says about vocabulary. Whether you introduce it first or introduce it after, the important thing is that we introduce vocabulary efficiently, that vocabulary is not a class in itself, right? We need to have an understanding of these words so that we can comprehend larger text. And that's why in Wonders, you'll notice the vocabulary lessons seem very short. And why we just tell students unique. Unique means one of a kind. An anteater's long nose is its unique characteristic. What is another word that means the same as unique, right? It's just a very efficient routine. I think that's the most important idea to remember, whether you introduce before or after. I think that's to the teacher's discretion. You know, principals, leadership may have specific requirements. I certainly would not count that.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you so much. I guess we've covered most of them. If anyone has a question, please let us know now. Oh, by the way, my colleague Afsana has dropped a link to all the other back-to-school webinars that we're doing. Thank you so much, Afsana. So that's the same pre-K one where you can register, and we have other webinars as well. My Math, Everyday Math. So if you'd like to register for any of our webinars, there's a link that you can just drop in and register for the upcoming webinars that we have. Okay, I guess okay, one last question before. I predict the online format will slow down the pacing of lessons. How to adapt the pacing?
Oh, yeah, an excellent question. And absolutely. Working with schools here in the US where we might have had 90 minutes of face-to-face instruction for English language arts, maybe now they have 30 minutes. The digital calendar, actually the digital planner, allows you to expand your week from 5 days to 6. So that helps a little bit. When you look at your teacher edition, you will notice that some routines are marked as core. So when your time is limited, I would invite you to look at those core activities first. When you can make a good faith commitment to teach the core, you know that you're giving your students a sound foundation, and then maybe some of those optional activities, maybe those can be some things that students do independently since we're in a virtual environment. That was an excellent question about pacing.
Thanks, Donna.
Also on the digital platform, I'm sorry, I just remembered something else. There is a pacing guide. So for 60 minutes or 90 minutes or 120 minutes. So maybe that would help teachers as well. And when they log into the Teacher Center, if they use the search, the magnifying glass, and just type in pacing guide, it will come right up.
Yeah, good one. Just one last one, sorry, Donna, then we can just log off. So this one is, what books should we use in grade K? LLB, REW, Reading Wonders, practice book, which ones should we use?
Yeah, excellent question. So the big books will be our anchor text. Those are really important to use because that's how we help our kindergarten students learn about their world. The reading writing companion is where students will practice their foundational skills. They'll get to respond to what they've listened to. I think those are really, really important. And I would use those two resources in whole group. So when we have many of our students together virtually, I would use those two. The practice book pages, once we model them, that might be something that students can complete independently. So that's how I would start to think about those resources. What do the students need me to guide them through, and what can they learn to do on their own to practice?
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. Thanks, Donna. You can stay connected with us with any of our social platforms or drop us an email if you have any question, anything. We will be sharing the recording of this webinar via email, so you should be able to, like my colleague mentioned earlier, within a week, you'll receive an email with the webinar recording and the option to download the certificate. So look out for that email, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Be well.